Okay, we're back and we're live. So let me first apologize to the world for the technical difficulties. Facebook has said I couldn't use those videos. I wasn't trying to make money off the videos. Just use it. If you saw the videos, if you saw our beginning, it was just a quick video to show an example of how sports, when it's snatched away from our young people, right, it can have a devastating effect because they don't know where the future holds without sports and certain activities, which is sad. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Talk about the positivity of sports, right? But also talk about that and other options and things that should be happening beyond sports. So again, we have Joel Wilson. We have from 100 Black Men. We have Ryan Harris from As I Plant to See. We have Jeff McCann from Afterlife. We have Latifah Fields from 100 Black Women of Pennsylvania. We have Coach Jim Chapman, Bartram High School. We have Lynette Medley from, No More Secrets, Mind, Body, and Spirit. And then we have Chris Banks from Banksgiving. So welcome you all again. Appreciate you. So you can share the links now. Should be no problems with YouTube and stuff like that. So great conversation thus far, but let's get into something else right now. So talk about how it was for you growing up. And I want each of you to respond to this. Talk about how it was for you growing up with sports or other activities, and how did those experiences help to build your foundation as the adult that you have become today? And we'll start with the ladies first. Ladies first.
Hi, everybody. It's Lynette Medley from No More Secrets. So it's so funny. When I read the question, I had to go ask my mom. I was like, what extracurricular activities was I in? Because I've always been this deviant spirit. Like, I really never really did what everybody else did. So I realized that I created, it's weird because I usually created my own clubs because I'm coming from a different mindset. I wasn't a sports person. I did do um, pep squad and all those type things later on in life, like in high school. But early on, there weren't the type of clubs or extracurricular activities. So I'm going to be the one on the other end because a lot of stuff was focused on sports and other things. And if you weren't into that, they didn't have as many options, or it was Girl Scouts or different things like that. So sometimes some of the groups that they had weren't always what some people necessarily wanted. So one thing that I can say is that I always engage other young ladies or other people to kind of create our own things and kind of go to the school and be like, hey, can we just have this? And they're like, well, we don't have money. Well, can we just meet in the lunchroom and have it? So I always, it's weird that I guess I'm in this space now because I always did stuff around people fitting in or needing to fit in or feeling good about themselves. In school, no matter what, from the time we're kindergarten up, it just seems like people are on this rat race trying to fit in and emulate or be like everybody else. So I think one of the things that I was always in was in these groups to try to give people self-esteem outside of what everybody else was doing. If it was the smart people, if it was the sports people or whatever, but to really engage in these conversations where people felt okay with who they were, even if everybody didn't agree. And even if school officials, because I know in junior high school, I know I started a group, Be Yourself, because everybody was trying to fit in. So I think that's what it is. And I think that allowed me, even though it was stuff that I created with other people who are like-minded, I think that allowed me a space to learn how to articulate my wants, needs, and desires, and also a place where I can learn how to communicate with other people and socialization. So going into what's going now with COVID, and I'm gonna shut it up, but with COVID is that my fear is that I don't know if people have safe spaces and other people to conversate with and have these conversations and have socialization and safe spaces. Because right now, a lot of people are at home and they're not engaging with other people. And sometimes people's homes aren't their safe spaces. And that's what happens with most of the populations that I deal with. The safe space was outside of the home. And that's my fear right now. And then that goes into the whole mental health, behavioral health, and all those other things. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Awesome, Lynette. Good evening, everyone. I'm Latifah Fields. I am the president for the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated, Pennsylvania chapter. So growing up for me, I come from a household with three brothers. So immediately, I'll say age 5, basketball was in my hands. And quickly thereafter, any sport, every sport, just to be around my brothers and my father. And that's still lens today. We still head out to the backyard, shoot around, play a little game of pig, no longer horse, because we're all a little older now. So we shorten that game a bit. But But sports very early on created for me a sense of ownership and involvement. Coming from a household with the males, I longed for that sisterhood. And so that is how sports became the outlet for me. So whether that was soccer, basketball, lacrosse, field hockey, tennis, track, and later into cheerleading, that is what I got involved in. And that helped with teamwork, leadership. Very early on, I actually was not very outspoken when I was younger. So I was that player that understood every piece of the game, everyone's position, so I could always be ready and not have to get ready. And that, kind of translated into life how it is today for me. But as I think about if I was a youth today, you would have to have a bit more involvement, have that connection in another way outside of the team as far as playing the game, if you may. I really am thankful for my parents and instilling that you had to connect off the court, off the field. And today, with trying to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, we have to be very unique in how and creative in how we are allowing that and doing so. So I know the coaches and those mentors and different organization leads are really trying to come together to build teams within not only our individual organizations, but bringing the organizations together to do that. And I think that can be very helpful to our youth today.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right on in.
Yeah.
And just thinking about when I was younger and I played sports. I played sports from the time when I was I played sports, but I didn't play organized sports under the whistle until I was 11 years old. Well, besides like
So let's pause right there for 1 second.
my fault.
I just got to jump in on one thing.
My fault.
So,
With equipment on this one.
Okay. I feel some kind of way.
I'm not down. Listen, I'm not going to downplay because listen, I was just about to say something too.
Okay, go ahead. Do your thing. I'm gonna be quiet.
Because look, you taught me what a linebacker was. I never knew that.
Yeah.
So before I even was introduced to football on another level with shoulder pads and helmet, you did teach me everything that I needed to know as far as position wise and what my job was and all that. So I do remember that. So yes, I appreciate it.
All right. Okay. All right.
But I didn't play organized sports or with equipment until I was 11 years old, and I found that I was good real quick. Just from people's response and things that I was capable of doing on the football field, and those things like it helps when you're good. But I was mentored by some great men when I'm talking about in football. I know you know the late great Wayne Wiz Allen. He mentored me all the way through Little League football and all. They was all friends. My Coach Montique, Coach Steve, and all of them. So they was teaching us about leadership early on, and that was one of the biggest things that I felt easily into a leadership position just being good on the field. Because naturally, when you one of the best players on the field, they try to push you to be a leader. But everybody that's the best on the field doesn't mean that they're a leader. I found that out too. But I got those morals and those values, and I got those things instilled in me at a young age, and it just taught me how to really become a leader. Help me work with others. Just thinking about the team as a whole instead of just thinking about my individual performance. And I can remember, always remembering those lessons that was taught on the field. It wasn't just for the field. And I tell people all the time, like, I love football. Don't get me wrong, but I know that as I was getting older, football wasn't for me. But I love football to watch it, to play it when I could play it. But I knew that wasn't the end all be all for me. And I appreciate the lessons that I learned, because everything that I learned on that football field helped me make the decisions I made today to be who I am to be. And it just created a a spunk inside of me to want more out of life, because I knew all I had to do was strive and work harder for it. So those things was, they're priceless. They're priceless tools that you get haphazardly until you really look back and say, Dad, he was teaching me how to be a leader. Dad, he was teaching me how to be sturdy, how to stand on, how to not be a what you call it, a traitor or anything like that. Those values that I can't even begin to put on another color when it comes to football. Those things that you cannot buy that, and those things got to be instilled in you when you're young. And I appreciate those things. So football helped change my life, and basketball and every other sport I played when I was young. But those things they're just not for football. And I try to tell kids all the time. I coach right now too. We just won a championship last year. Aztecs 14U won a championship last year. So I try to tell them that it's not the end all be all. And I got kids right now that's going into high school, devastated, trying to find a way. Some kids just put up together a 7-on-7 stop the violence rough touch tournament the other day. 14, 15-year-old kids. I had over 100 kids out there. No dumb stuff, just enjoying themselves, but they're already finding out ways to adapt. So, I appreciate that. But those skills on the field, that leadership, those leadership qualities make you and push you to be better off the field, so you can think about how you can be innovative and creative in today's pandemic and don't let nothing hinder you. And that's what the kids are doing now. So, yeah, it helps a lot.
Chat, you want to jump in, Chat? Go ahead, Chat.
Hey guys, like I said, I'm Jim Chapman from John Bartram High School. I started playing football when I was 7 years old. Grew up an only child, so for me, football was a brotherhood. It was what I had. I mean, I looked forward to going to practice every day, spending time with everybody. I was fortunate enough to play in the Chamonix High School and then, go play at Ithaca College. But football was life for me. It was a way of life. It wasn't just, oh, the season's over, it's done. It was, we got finished the season. A week later, we were back together in the weight room. We would spend every waking minute of the day together. So for sports, it's the utmost important. It taught me everything that I have pretty much. If I didn't have football, I don't know if I'd be in the position to even be on this panel tonight, to be 100% honest with you. I don't know if I'd be in the position where Coach Warren hired me 13 years ago, so for right now with the kids in the city and the kids everywhere, I have the utmost empathy for them. It's not fair. It's not right. They need something. They need an outlet. They need something to get, their anger off their chest. And, I really empathize with them, like I said, and thank you guys again for having me on this panel.
Hey, Chap, I got to tell this story, and I got other little stories to tell too, but I got to tell the story. So when the principal at the time came to me and said, Coach Warren, you got this young guy who's coming from somewhere. I don't know. She said somewhere. She might have said Bucks County or something. Wants to coach football with you. And she knew I was grinding. I was doing my thing or whatnot. I said, all right. And I just lost a pretty good defensive coordinator. I was ready to do both sides of the ball. I was going to do that. And I was getting ready for a 7-on-7. I said, okay, we talked on the phone. I said, let's meet his famous Dave's up there on the boulevard, right? Up on the boulevard. I never forget it. And as soon as I sat down and looked at this young guy, 23 years old or whatever, and he just knew the game, and not just knew the game, was passionate about the game and wanted to help kids. But this was going to be his first time. And I would never have given somebody the defensive coordinator job as a first-year coach. I mean, because we had a pretty good team coming in, right? We won like 10 games that year. Unfortunately, we lost to Northeast where they had that good wide receiver and that quarterback. We lost to them in the playoffs. Shouldn't have lost to them guys, but we
And
lost
the kicker. Don't forget the kicker.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. So it is what it is. The kicker. We can't hear you, Chris. Don't worry. We don't want to hear all that. We don't want to hear all that. But anyway, listen, it was well deserved. Your parents did an awesome job. You definitely are about these kids. And 13 years later, you're back there still doing a great thing, man. Thank you, man, for coming in and committing yourself to these kids. They definitely need you, man, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, now you can talk, Chris. Go ahead. Now take yourself off mute.
All I was saying is that it wasn't surprising for y'all to lose to Northeast. That's typically how it goes,
Oh man.
Yeah.
So talk about sports. Go ahead. Talk about sports, Chris. Go ahead. And you.
So I think my perspective is going to be a little different. And again, this is me talking as an adult, not as how I would have looked at it when I was younger. But I like sports. You know, I think that sports, you know, for me, that was between sports and me moving around a lot. Sports definitely helped me meet a whole lot of people that I probably wouldn't have beforehand, and that's, you know, white, black, as Ryan was saying too, me being fairly okay or decent at sports also allowed me to get, you know, to meet to meet some nice people as well, because people like you when you're doing well. So I certainly don't regret any of the relationships that I've met along the way. What I will say is that I think that one of the problems that I see in myself as a youth, and for one of the students that I deal with now, is that we pick sports as being number one. And I think that that's when the problem comes in. And I know that it's hard to stomach that as former players, as current coaches, and things like that. But you know, I think that if like the reality of sports, and because most of kids, they do it because it's fun, and it's certainly you know, somewhere for them to get recreation at. But most of these kids, they dream about being on TV. They dream about making those $1 million contracts and things like that. And I think that even in the high school and the collegiate level, the reality of that happening or not happening is never really told until it's too late. So if you think about the average kid that starts playing sports, I think the average age is about 7 or 8 years old. You know, for 10 years of their life, you know, or 8 years of their life, they doing this because they want to. We could say it's for the love, right? Everybody gonna say that, but the reality situation is these kids want to be in the NFL. They want to go to the NBA. They want to be LeBron James. Uh, Back in my day was Barry Sanders and Deion Sanders. You know what I mean. And even when they go to college, they're not necessarily thinking about the job that they're gonna have after college. They thinking about how I'm gonna go to the league. And I think that so much emphasis is put on that, and so much pressure, especially as Black kids in the inner city, that it doesn't really allow you to experience other things in life. It doesn't allow you to have that exposure, just to learning other things, understanding finance. You know, when I talk to kids all the time, and certainly finance is in my background, but it's disheartening to know like that when football, basketball, whatever that is over, most of these kids really have no idea what else to do. And that could be a 23-year-old that just graduated from a 4-year scholarship at a D1 university. They literally don't know what else there is to do. And that's sad. That's sad for any 23-year-old, especially considering that they probably should have known this at 13, or at least been able to, you know, listen, I like science, so maybe I should have been going to science club too. But you know, most of us tell them, you know, listen, lift those weights, jump as high as you can, run as fast as you can, and it's going to be a way out the hood. And I don't know how often or how probable that actually is, versus if we actually did have a deep dive and invest into education and things of that sort.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
So I definitely appreciate your comments. And again, I'm coming from a different vantage point. So specifically on when you talked about young men and where their Black young men in particular, and where their focus is at, there actually are studies that have already looked at that. And so there is a term called identity foreclosure. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. So what identity foreclosure is, and you spoke to it, you just didn't use the term, but it's when you have young folks who have never experienced camping or, you know, working at different places and studying, you know, cutting open a rabbit, you know, just different things that young people would do. They never experienced any of that. And they set themselves to believe that they want to do this one specific thing. And so, you know, which may be football or maybe basketball. So they literally, their identity forecloses on that very narrow path. And so studies are saying that 80% of our young Black boys have that coming out of urban environments. And so now I'm going to transition this into, I'm from 100 Black Men, so I'll be real clear with that. Our social justice mission and our historical, our legacy. And so as Black people, we're, you know, BLM wouldn't be out here doing what they're doing if it was, you know, fairness and equality. Here it's not. And so one of the fundamental ways that Black people are not getting what we should out of America is because of the educational disparity. And if 80% of our young boys are focused on something that honestly, you know, unless you're Michael Jordan or Allen Iverson, you're not gonna get it. And so all these things that actually make this country move forward, they're not pursuing. They're not becoming doctors. They're not becoming nurses. They're not becoming financiers. They're, you know, all these things. And so it's hurting us. It's actually helping to keep us in the position that we are. So I'm not trying to advocate, you know, not sports. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm saying is that we are way out of balance. For every kid that's on a sports team, what are they doing in addition to that? Are you in the arts club? Are you in the chemistry club, the biology club? What is the, and as coaches, you have to really put teeth into this. Like literally don't let them play if they are not pursuing something else that's gonna make them a more rounded individual. And you could use the 100 Black Men. You know, we specialize in mentoring, leadership, social justice, Black history, and financial education. We have 5 different programs, you know, financial education. We got a program we're running now. We're literally, when the kids end, they're going to get a $50 stock account. They can buy Google or, you know, Netflix or whatever. They can get started. So we want the athletes to develop outside of just being an athlete. So then we as a community, we really can move forward. So thank you.
Joel, can I touch on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
then
just
after,
be.
then after that, Jeff, then after that, it's Jeff's turn. But go ahead, Chad, real quick.
Yeah, I mean, just being in Southwest for 13 years with Coach Warren and everything, one of the main, you know, reasons the kids come to school at Bartram High School is because of athletics. If you look at our population, we have about 500 kids, 100 of which are autistic or life skills needs, and we have about 200 plus on the athletic teams. So the reason they're coming to school is that, and so I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree 100% with you. I think there needs to be the conversation of let's use the athletics to move forward with other programs. But I'm just saying athletics is bringing these kids into the building every day because we had terrible problems with truancy, terrible problems.
Let me respond to that.
I wanted to say,
if I could just say something briefly and then, because I just want to respond to this.
30 seconds, Joe, 30 seconds, because I got to get Jeff on.
No problem. But what you have just posed is a part of racism. Racism allows our schools to fail. So then our youth have no reason to go there with the exception of sports. So you will keep us in our position if you do not improve schools, because the kids in Ballard Kenwood, they willingly go to school. I went to Central High School. I was fortunate. I willingly went to Central because it offered me something. And so we need all these schools to offer something. And the only thing that it offers of credibility cannot be sports.
So let me jump in real quick, and then I'm gonna let Jeff say something, because me being a Bartram alum, right? Being a Bartram alum, went to Bartram, coached at Bartram, taught at Bartram, principal at Bartram, right? Did all that. 40 years Bartram, right? 40 years Bartram total.
Wow.
If it was not for God, my grandmother, and playing football, I would not be sitting here today, right? Now, granted, my grandmother gave me a lot of foundation, but I strayed away, right? And but I'll go into all the details of that, what that straying away meant. Being able to come back and play football, but it got me introduced to other people. So trust me, when Coach Chapman is talking about the sports, there's other things and other people and other mentors and other programs that they're involved to as well. So you get them in the door and then expose them to other things. So I can definitely speak to that. So it's not just like it's all just sport and that's all it is. No, there's other things going on as well. Because trust me, I wouldn't have hired that guy 13 years ago if it wasn't about the other things, being open to other things and whatnot. So let me just jump in there with that. So with that being said, about 20 years ago, I saw a program called Play It Smart. I went to a presentation down at Ben Franklin High School, I think it was, Ben Franklin High School. And then also I saw a video. It was a video of a high school in North Jersey, East Orange High School in North Jersey. And it was just like, you know, I was head coach at King at the time, Martin Luther King. And so very similar, urban, you know, a lot of problems, a lot of issues and concerns and whatnot, a lot of crime, a lot of violence. But it was this program, Play It Smart, where you were able to get an academic coach to come in and not just talk about sports. I was on the sports side, but the academic coach talked about academics, talked about social issues, social justice issues, helping them with different career opportunities, team building, doing ropes courses, right? And so the person that I met at that time was Jeff McCann. So now Jeff McCann, being the executive director of AthLife, talk about your opportunity with sports, but then also talk about a little bit how AthLife kind of bridges the gap of what kind of like what Joel was talking about and what Chapman is talking about, because you do both. You bring it all together to make Ryan's, essentially. You make Chris's. You make the ladies also through your programs by putting all that stuff together. So talk about that.
Well, this is great conversation first and foremost. And Joel, the identity foreclosure piece, like as you guys were talking, my boss, John Harris, says all the time, and we have an organization that basically has a cradle to grave approach to working with athletes. And there's a whole faction of our organization that works with post-professional athletes. And one of the things he says, 100% of athletes will transition into something else other than competitive sport. Everyone will, right? So you showed that clip earlier, got me thinking about identity foreclosure. And then Joel, you mentioned it, but real quick, back to this youth sport opportunity. Like what I remember growing up as a working class neighborhood was the fact that we had opportunities to do multiple things, and that there was this incredible thread of volunteerism amongst the parents, however skilled or lack of skilled they were. They did everything they could to make sure we had year-round opportunities. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is that just even within the sport environment today, especially for urban environments and young people of color, is that even the sport opportunities are shrinking. Like the pay for play, youth sport has completely lost its soul. The pay for play that's out there now, that's creating a further divide and basically preventing kids from even engaging in other sports, is really starting to damage, some of the communities and the offerings. And reason I want to bring this up and tie it to identity foreclosure is that, again, like everybody gets hooked differently, right? The caring adult mentor and an activity is crucial for a young person. And then it's the engagement in that necessary exploratory behavior beyond that activity that helps you develop your identity outside of just that one thing. So the younger they are, the kids are, the more opportunity there is to help them engage in that necessary exploratory behavior. And for the guys on this panel that played at higher level sport, you all know that the better you are, the more narrow your experience becomes. So you become that college student athlete, you don't have time to do anything except that sport, right? So if you make the pros, even more so. So, that identity formation, Joel, I mean, the better you are at that sport, the more foreclosed you can become, unless at the right age you were intentionally brought to those necessary exploratory experiences. And that ends up in the hands of coaches like Damon and Jim and all of you guys that coach and women that coach. You guys are responsible for helping provide those opportunities. So, I get concerned about the youth sport landscape for that very reason, especially for the young people that we serve, is that there is a lack of sport opportunity, and ergo then a lack of these other opportunities to engage kids in exploratory behavior.
You're on mute, Brother Warren.
I'm going to show a screen. I'm going to share the screen real quick and show a slide. This speaks to what we all just said. Give me one. This slide right here speaks to what we just said. And I'm sure some of you have seen this before. I know you've definitely seen it, Mr. McCann. So looking at the number of high school athletes there are in football, and then how many will play in college, and how many of those will play professionally. Look at basketball. How many are playing in high school? How many play in college? how many play professionally, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. So, as Joe spoke about, as many of you alluded to, there's a lot of other things out there besides the sport. And at some point in time, it ends. We all know that it ends, right? And once it ends, what's next? So my next question is, how are the children, right? And when I say how are the children that you're working with right now in your respective roles, right? How are they? How are they doing right now? Ladies, and let's take this to about like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Let's go with the ladies first. Any children that you're working with?
I'll start this one. So through the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated Pennsylvania chapter, we have a mentoring program. And a lot of us this evening have talked about or will talk about the importance of mentoring and how much it really does matter in the lives of the youth, that the youth are really, as Whitney Houston coined it, the children are, the future. And so we have a very important piece in making sure we connect with them. And while we're not able to in person connect, as we, like I said earlier, try to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, you still have to provide some connection. And over the summer, what we did was reach out to the young ladies continually, just for one, to check in, to see, are they safe? How they are in their homes. Earlier, when we started, Lynette talked about how the home is supposed to be the safe space, right? And how for so many in our communities, it is not. I don't know the percentage offhand, but they talked about how abuse has skyrocketed since we are back in the home. And when we talk about starting back with school, and shout out to those educators who have revamped what you were originally going to do in person, but to make it creative and unique in this virtual world. Shout out to you, because you are not only managing the youth in the village, if you may, but your own homes. Shout out to those parents that have become the coach, the teacher, the principal, the nurse. It is very important. And so as we look to continue to connect with our youth, we have to think about some unique ways in ways to do so, because also everyone thinks so quickly, yes, we can go right to virtual. Well, there are still homes in this day on September 11, 2020 at 7:56 p.m. that do not have Wi-Fi access.
Yeah.
They cannot even conduct themselves in a classroom virtually the way they need to. They cannot, and we can talk about the pay equity and those gaps in regards to men and women and understanding what they make and how our households are made up. But before we can even touch on some of the other aspects, just getting them to sign on and have a safe and conducive space where they can do so is very important. So one, reaching out and checking on to make sure they have access, because if they don't have the access, then they can't access the other things that they need to be around in. And then I'll toss the ball to Lynette.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lynette Metley, founder and CEO of No More Secrets, Mind, Body, Spirit Incorporated. So, how are the children? That's a good question. When I read the question, I was like, wow. The children who lived in underprivileged communities and populations are suffering. They're suffering deeply. As you know, if people don't know, I'm out in the communities every day, all day, in all communities, all day and all night. And so I'm personally seeing them, personally seeing their environments. But you wanted to know how my work changed. Actually, my work has changed tremendously in that I have more opportunity than I had before. So it's ironic when we're talking about, the kids coming to school and, sports was what some of them need. So me, because our organization does programming for young people, before we couldn't get into the schools because they didn't have budgetary money or finances because it was allocated in other directions. So now it's ironic that all the schools are calling us now to ask if we can implement the programs virtually because their budgets are shifting. And that's ironic to me in that the programs that we're putting in the school are vital to their survival. And the reason I say that is because I'm on the ground in the communities every day. Again, let me say that I'm out in every area of the city all night, all day. I see what's going on, and I created this connection with the young people and their families because they're inviting me in to understand what it is they need. We have not stopped our services. We actually are doing 200 plus now in a week. So we've ramped up even more. And the one thing I would say is that communities are suffering. It's not just the children. So even not even just Wi-Fi, water and food, free lunches, like people were talking about, giving them those cards or whatever. Half of those parents don't even get the mail half of the time. So it's such a desperation in our communities. So I think one of the things is that even though people are teaching virtually, we still need people on foot out in our communities. We can't, and I'm just telling you, it's just a level of frustration that I had that when COVID hit, everything shut down, politicians, programs, everything. And I understand that, but at the end of the day, these people are still suffering and need our support. So how do we know the level of suffering and the level of disparities if we're not out there? So it has to be a balance. So these mental health breakdowns, you wouldn't know from a virtual conversation because they just probably wouldn't log on that day. So it's ironic. I want to say one more thing. So it's funny when I see all these people talking about, oh, I see my kids setting up for the learning and they got their little desks. I'm going to households where 7 kids in the house in one room. I just need to know, how is that going to be a positive learning experience when people are living in rooms? And so I think that's one of the things that I think I just need to highlight is that poverty and vulnerability and disparity in our communities is growing since COVID hit, with the loss of jobs, the loss of the $600 stimulus, the loss of resources, the loss of people being out there putting their eyes on it. So our children are suffering. So as we move forward with programs and we're talking about that, they need to be more intentional on meeting people where they are instead of asking them to come to where you are and meeting you where your perspective is. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I see you live, Lynette. I see you doing your thing, Lynette. Listen, I see you out there, and you could talk about your little story at the end, maybe when you was walking in one hood and people were dressed a certain kind of way. If you want to get into it, yeah, I listen. I follow your stuff. So we can talk about that in a little bit. I'm gonna go Chat, then I'm gonna go Ryan. How are the children, man? And listen, let me say, first of all, I would be remiss if I didn't say this first and foremost. Let's take a moment of silence to recognize the fact that it's 9/11. Yeah, 19 years ago today, man, act of terrorism, but there's all kinds of terrorism going on. Terrorism in the hoods too, right? All types of terrorism and even self-inflicted terrorism. And unfortunately, Chapman and I, we lost a former player of ours just recently, right? Just recently due to gun violence, right in the Southwest, So Chapman, go, man. How are the children, man? How are the children? How the children?
Like I said, I'm also a teacher as well, and my wife's a teacher. The children are not okay. They're not okay. A lot of times they log on to class just to sit there and talk. They don't want to be talked to. They don't want to be taught a lesson. We have our schedules 45 minutes synchronous, 45-minute asynchronous, where they could do their own work. They just want to sit there and talk that extra 45 minutes and express their frustrations, their problems. Like Lynette said, I had a girl the other day, we were talking what are her challenges for online learning. And she said, well, I got 9 people in a 2-bedroom house and they're screaming going on all day. She said, I'm trying my best, Mr. Chapman, but this is a struggle. And it is a struggle. And, not everybody has Wi-Fi. Kids are trying to do this on their phone. They're trying to log on to Google Meets on their iPads and then get on a Jamboard or something like that. And they're logging off and they're getting frustrated. They're staring at the screen for too long, and they're just, it's not fair to them, to be honest with you. It's not. And, the equity in terms of, I live in a different district, and I see what our district did. And they made sure everybody had iPads, everybody had, Chromebooks prior to the start of school. Not, hey, we're going to go virtual. You got to come to 4:40 to pick up a Chromebook. And if, you're in line for 2 hours and the door shuts at 2 o'clock, oh, well, come back the next day. It's not fair and it's not right. And, I really feel for the kids, and the stories are heartbreaking. They really are. And I don't know what else to say, but I just can't wait to get back in front of the kids because I truly, truly do feel for them right now.
Yeah. Ryan, you got a bunch of kids too. Talk, man. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm getting both sides. So I'm getting some amazing stories with us staying connected with them virtually and doing like one-on-one visits to keep them, because a lot of the kids in my program, they have their own business and stuff that we started, entrepreneurship workshops and stuff that we started that we got to continue with that. So they've been doing good. Just recently we put together, my kids and some kids from the program, they put together pop-up shop, a youth pop-up shop, you know what I mean? And they had some activities and things out there, and it was just a good moment for the kids to be able to be outside. But we just try to continue to create opportunities for them, create platforms for them to kind of just, knock some of the stress off, the anxiety, all the things that they're going through with being stuck in the house. And on the other side, we experiencing, even me, so I know, like, I think I do well for myself, and I like to believe that I'm providing the best education for my kids, to go to Catholic school, whatever. But for what I'm doing, and I find it a struggle to even keep food in the refrigerator when we talking about them being in the house all day, or them just wanting something different to eat when they didn't have an option at school, whatever the case may be. It's a whole different ball game. That's even adding to their anxiety, depression when the kids want to eat something different, and it's like, okay, today we're going to cook. We're not going to eat outside. It just add more to fuel to the fire while the kids are stuck in the house. So the kids are they up and down. We try to give them the platforms to express themselves and continue to try to stay connected. But we got a lot of work to do. This virtual school is a joke to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's a joke. But yeah, I'm sorry to be blunt like that, but it's a big joke.
So Chris,
they need more than that. They got 30 kids in the classroom, and the teacher can't handle them in the classroom. How do you handle them virtually? 30 kids on one Zoom or one, it doesn't make sense. And then I keep seeing all these things I'm sorry to keep going, but I keep seeing all these posts on the news and on everybody about what the kids are being so disrespectful, and they're doing this. Is like is not attainable. And it's like the simple things they could do to kind of minimize it, they don't just mute the kid. They just let the kids go on and kicking kids off because they got kids, and they got their kids and their kids crying in the background. Just mute the kid. You know what I mean? And it's so much more simpler than we make it be. And the kids are suffering because a lot of the people that's in those positions, in those leadership positions, they're not thinking innovatively. They're not trying to push the needle and trying to, kind of like help us grow in those areas that we need to be forced to grow. And we're being forced to grow, but under these leaderships with some of these things that are coming up is a joke to me. So I'm sorry. The kids are definitely suffering, and we the people that's on this call are continuing to try to do the work to try to meet their needs, and it's rough, but that's our job.
Chris, go ahead, Chris. Now the children, man, are you still getting out there doing your thing?
Yeah, so I would say since I guess March 15th or so, all of our classes and stuff have essentially stopped. But I think in June and throughout has now been virtual. We actually have something tomorrow that's it's funny. Ryan kind of said it. Tomorrow we start a 7-week program about entrepreneurship program and about kids creating their own pop-up shops and just still trying to keep them engaged on top of what they're doing in school and things like that. I do think that that's very important, and even as a supplement, a main ingredient or whatever that is. It is one thing that I want to add, and I think to relate it back to sports, because I was in a debate with one of my friends who I played football with in high school, who's now a coach. And, he was saying that, the kids are, they're just suffering so bad. And, I'm helping these kids going to college. And, I feel so bad because if they're not doing this, they doing that. And I think that even on this panel, I think that sometimes we really look at the extreme, and we look at the extreme from a very I'm not gonna say small demographic, but we just always look at it at an extreme. And I say that to say that, you know, not every Black kid that doesn't play sports is going to end up killing somebody. Not every Black kid that don't play sports is going to end up in jail. But, you know, when I hear people talking, that's what they make it like. You know, if they don't play this year, then what are you going to do? Like, I think this is like a perfect time for him to do a million other things. You know what I mean? To focus on all these other things. Because the reality situation is we've been playing this sports game for 50, 60 years. You know, that sports is our way out, that this is that. And we can look at the stats on that. And again, this is not talking to someone who was a nerd on the sidelines, you know, that was a geek or something. Like, you know, like I did okay for myself on a sports tip, but it's like, you know, it really kills me when I see coaches and people in these administrators and these level act like, you know, this is the only thing. But I also understand that, you know, from a coach's perspective, is like, you know, I came here to win games. So me telling a kid that he should be a scientist doesn't necessarily go towards, you know, what I'm actually here to do, even if I know that that might be better for him, because we got to beat Northeast, we got to beat St. Joe's Prep, we got to do that. That's how I'm keeping my job. That's how we gonna go down in history and things like that. But again, I just think that, like, you know, again, if you're a coach or in an administrative position, and you think that the only way of getting a kid out of trouble is to throw a ball in his face and keep him busy, I would say that you're failing at that position, you know? And I think that even that thought comes from year of racism, and that's racism even in our own black communities internalized. And I think it goes to see like how you look at certain people in the world, because, you know, you don't necessarily say this about white kids. You know, when sports is out for them, you don't say, oh, well, he gonna end up stabbing somebody, or he's gonna be on drugs or things like that. But when we deal with our Black kids, we like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I'm like, you know, like again, and let's be clear, I feel for all of the coaches and the players who are taking a major hit out of a daily routine that they've been doing for years. But I also think that just like businesses, it's a good time to create other opportunities as well, especially if we're talking about that sports might start in January. Only thing the coach is telling them is to lift weights and run again. We back to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think this is a perfect time to tell them that at any moment sports can stop. And what are you going to do? So, you know, I think that really hits near there in my heart. And I think it's important to talk about.
I don't mean to cut you off, but at any point, sports will stop.
That's for real.
It will stop.
If I could jump in the conversation real quick. So one of the things
you were next, Joe. You was next, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You was next.
You got it.
Okay, all right.
2 minutes.
All right. So I'm 51 now. So I graduated high school in '87, and so there are some things we can look at from a historical perspective. What were youth doing then, and what are the results now? Where are those folks now? So two programs I would point to. One was called AFNA, African Foundation for Negro Affairs. And what AFNA did is it took kids down to 7th or 8th grade. I got in AFNA after graduating 8th grade. And so
I was in AFNA.
You were in that? Okay.
Yeah,
so after 8th grade, in that summer, I took classes at Temple. So I'm taking biology, geometry. This is right after 8th grade. And I have an electric badge to the IBM building on Market Street, and I'm programming on an IBM System 34. And I just turned 14. So that's one thing. Next thing, later, after my sophomore year at Central, I got into Prime, Philadelphia Regional Introduction for Minorities to Engineering. So there I was a Prime student. So I took classes in the summer at Drexel, next summer was Penn, and then my last summer, I stayed at Villanova for a month. And I can tell you, the young folks that I was in these programs with, and in particular at Prime, so we had to write all these papers, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? So my best friend, Prime with me, he's a pharmacist, super successful pharmacist in Florida. His wife's a pharmacist, he went to FAMU. Another young lady, #1 student at Overbrook, she became a corporate lawyer. I mean, and the list just goes on. So their success rate in these programs was so high. Now, Prime lost its funding. In AFNA, when the gentleman, Samuel Evans, when he passed, it sort of went by the wayside. So we've had programs that actually was fixing the problem in this city, and they're no longer being funded. And then another thing I would look at, I would say, I would look at when I went to Central High School, is a case study. I'm the last class that was all male. And so I'm the last class admitted all male, and I was a freshman. And then about a week into that is when the young ladies came in. But if you look at the young men in particular that I was in school with, in just in that time frame, if you're familiar with Salem Baptist Church, Marshall Mitchell, who runs that church, he was a year under me. You look at Neo Soul Music, Chauncey Childs, you know, he was Central High School. So the list just goes on in the success that these folks had. And it's because they were fully developed as human beings. And so all I'm trying to advocate for is that if we are really trying to correct the problem, and I'm laser focused on young Black men, if we're trying to correct this problem, we cannot have one-sided Black men who only think that their only way out of this is sports. It can't be that. It has to be the well-roundedness. And I'll say this on my last note. So my father was a high school dropout. And for whatever reason, you know, my mom put him in college and wrote all his papers. That's a fact. He's passed now, so it don't matter. But in his heyday, this man was running one of the largest businesses in the city of Philadelphia, had over 400 employees, and was a beast. So, you know, he put tons of people on in the city. And we need people like that. And that's why we have to fight against identity foreclosure. That's the elephant in the room that we got to acknowledge and deal with, and not let our young men, when, you know, I attack our young men in third and fourth grade who are not reading. I attack that. We got to deal with that. Thank you.
I got to say something really quickly. There are still programs.
And then Jeff.
I'm sorry, there are still programs out there. I know a friend called Forensic Chick. She does a science program. We have a STEM program. So I really need us to be intentional about understanding that there are still programs out here for our young people, and that if they're Black led or Black run, they don't get the same type of funding and acknowledgement, but there are still programs out there to create a more comprehensive, holistic approach to all of these things for our young people. But I just had to say that really quick.
So Antoinette is my friend. And so I know her well.
Yes, yeah.
And so,
all right.
and I founded actually a STEM program called Tech Core 2. So we're in our 6th year. We do Saturday classes, extensive summer program. So I'm in that space too, because I'm a computer science person as my trade.
And I was in prime too, so that's what made me.
We're gonna round off with what all of you do, brother. So you're jumping the gun, brother Joe. You jumping the gun. I got you.
Coach, the question you asked was, how are the children? So first of all of you guys are, you know, on the front lines here, and it's amazing the work you're doing. It's been a minute for me since I've actually been inside a school, but I'm in a position here where we're providing a platform and resources for folks in these critical mentoring roles that they can reach. And, you know, I'm hearing what you guys are saying, and the same things happening from the people that we work with: the food insecurity issues, the tech issues, the basic needs issues, electricity bill being paid so you can plug the computer in issues. I mean, this is a cocktail of just unbelievable challenges for a lot of families and kids. So you know, we're seeing that all over the place, you know, from the inner city to the rural schools that we work with, where, you know, you have kids that have to drive to a spot like 30 minutes away to get a Wi-Fi signal if they're lucky. You know, so for us in Joel, you know, this is like you're describing what we exist for, like helping schools put these academic athletic support people in place so they can help create the well-roundedness that we all are shaking our heads about. So over the last, you know, couple of months, we've tried to create innovative things so we could put them in the hands of coaches and people on the front lines to create more of a hook, you know, for the kids that they work with. You know, one of those is we have this partnership with Yellow Brick, which is connected to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. They have a sneaker school, and they're giving us the sneaker curriculum for free. So any school that's attached to our network coaches can grab this 6-week curriculum, 14-week curriculum, or just a 2 to 4 week starter project and walk their kids from sneaker design through sales. It's just a plug in, right? So we had, I think, 5 or 6 schools just right out of the gate sign up for it immediately. I don't think Yellow Brick knows what they're in for, like once we start pushing this. But they added something to it, which was incredible. Reebok put a competition together a few weeks ago where one of their lead designers, they put this out. Kids had to write a little essay, and 15 got selected. Now they're going to spend 2 months with this designer once a week.
Wow.
One of these kids is going to make a shoe, and it's going to get made. Actually, they're going to design a shoe, and it's going to get made. So these are the things that we look for. So, Damon, I know you remember this. Think about Dr. Scott coming to you going, hey, we got to get all our kids into sneaker school. And you looking at her going, we got to go to the weight room, Dr. Scott.
Don't call me out like that, man. Don't call me out like that. But listen, I let the kids go. Was the ropes coursing and all that?
Yeah, the ropes going right on.
They missed practice. They went to ropes courses. I allowed all that kind of stuff. But I was much younger then. I was like, we gotta win, we gotta win, we gotta win. But I knew the value of her. I knew the value of the program at the time.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm honestly, I'm just poking at you here.
I have to say, I have to just go in and say, listen, any administrator, educator out there, Chapman, you're here on the line right now. You got the inside track. Get with Jeff around Athlife. Because if you have athletic programs, even if you don't, partner with them, because the resources, and I know it's mindset, the resources that they provided years ago through the National Football Foundation and Play It Smart, I know the energy, and it will definitely benefit the underserved population of children that are in schools like where we live and where we work, where we operate. Yeah. So definitely check those guys out.
And I think you guys are just so right. Like, now is the time to be innovative. And Ryan, I liked what you said. Like, the kids are not okay, but you know what? Some of them are. Okay. So let's try to lean into that the best we can and keep coming at people. Like, I just view us as like this ridiculously steady drum beat. Like after my 10th email, somebody responds, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm here. We're not going anywhere. And I think a lot of the folks that we work with that are in the space of high school education in these roles, they're very similar. They will not give up. So yeah, 30 kids on a Zoom, no problem. Academic athletic coach, 25 text messages and phone calls later, right? You guys are all shaking. This deal, right? You got to go after them 100 different ways until they respond. And it's relentless. And the folks that are in the schools that we work with, they're doing 3 times as much work from May to June in the virtual space than they were doing face to face. And they just wouldn't let up because of all these things that you guys are describing, and it is an incredible challenge right now. And, the next several months, we're all going to be tested a little bit, and, we're all going to need our own, mental health check-ins too. So I'm going to stop there.
Yeah. So we're going to wind up with this last question. Essentially it's for all of you to talk about what it is. We kind of alluded to some of those things, but now go into more detail to what you have to offer where you are, right? Whether it be in the school, whether it be in the community, whether you have locally, nationally, whatever. It's now to talk about those things beyond Friday Night Lights, right? Beyond sports, but also still using sport, right? If you're engaged with sport to get those kids to the next level. As we saw, high school, everybody plays. Not that many in college, and definitely not that many in the pros. So what are we doing now, right? What do you have to offer our babies? And we can just go with the ladies first, always.
All right, ladies first. And my name is Latifa. So shout out to those that get that little joke. But with the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated Pennsylvania chapter, we are one of 61 chapters nationwide with 2,800 members. So not only do you have something locally in every state, but you'll have a couple chapters. And we advocate, as I like to add in, unapologetically on behalf of Black women and girls, focusing mainly on health, education, economic empowerment, and the public policy around that. We didn't get to touch a lot on policy, but there's a lot of change that needs to occur in policy that can then affect the funding, which will allow for the programming that's needed. Primarily, we work on or work through programs. And prior to March, our programming was done in person. And it was for women and girls revolving around the areas I spoke of. Immediately, once people realized COVID was a real thing, and for me, I had been kind of tuned into it a little bit before with working in travel. And we said, well, we can't stop. You know, what we need to do and what is needed cannot stop. So we went right to virtual. But again, that doesn't meet the need for everyone, if you may, you know, and so as Jeff stated, well, we'll meet those where they are right now and who we can serve right now, but also working quickly to move to meet those that may not have exposure. For us as an organization, it has opened up the doors widely for us. We are able to reach a lot more by not being in person. We have had our doors knocked on virtually for women that have daughters, men that have daughters, women themselves that are just looking for an opportunity to give back and get involved, but also have exposure for their the youth in their lives. And so we had to be unique in what we were doing, and not necessarily constantly the talking at, if you may, but allowing, and I think Jim talked on about that, allowing that safe space for those students to ask questions and to get involved. One thing we are proud of everything we do, and we know that there will always be a need for an organization like ours, and I love that. And I know some folks feel like, no, it has to be a day when we are not needed. No, we are always going to be needed, and all of you and what you do, it's always going to be needed. But taking a look at STEAM and what it means for young women in our community. For me growing up, STEAM was pushed very early. Very early, it was pushed for me. And so that was great. That was something that I always looked at, and having being a student of Prime, and I saw on Facebook, a lot of folks are talking, if it wasn't for Prime, they wouldn't have this or they wouldn't have that. Because my very own basketball coaches were science teachers. And so that right away, you know, resonated for me, like, oh, okay. Oh, this is what they got into, you know, but we did virtual science fairs this year. And that was really new for us. And we partnered with two institutions in the Philadelphia School District primarily, where it was run by the students. You had young ladies on Zoom showing their science experiments and explaining the outcomes and the methods that they utilize. They may not have had an opportunity to do something like that outside of the classroom. So we are really thankful for that opportunity. And as we look to continue and building upon our youth entrepreneurship programs, I'm gonna be knocking on the doors of all of you, learning to see more about what you're doing and making sure that the young ladies are not forgotten and what you're doing, because the women, we are coming up, we are moving forward, we are seeing how things are going politically, and we are a nonpartisan organization, so we will not do any shout outs regarding that, but it is very important for us to have our voices and be at that table. And as Shirley Chisholm said, listen, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring your seat. And so we are proud to bring our own seats and to show up. And so our organization, and Brother Warren will show how you can get in contact with us. And if we can't provide it, it doesn't stop there. We'll then connect you with someone else. So we are thankful for our partnership with 100 Black Men, And this is a national partnership, but us on the local level had already talked about how we were going to get together anyway. But I am proud to be on this panel and thankful to hear about what you all are doing. Jim, my dad is a graduate of Bartram, and so we are always tuning in to see what Bartram is doing and everything. And so Lynette, I'm gonna toss it to you so you can tell everyone about the amazing things that you are doing. Okay, and we were thankful for the partnership with Lynette this year and look forward to the continued partnership with you.
Thank you. Hi, Lynette from No More Secrets, Mind, Body, Spirit Incorporated. So first of all, we're a sexuality awareness organization. We uplift self-esteem and self-efficacy to decrease silence and stigmas around sexuality-related issues. We have a lot going on, so I don't even know what to start with, but I will start with we are the nation's only comprehensive sexuality awareness organization. We also are the organization that has stepped upon the issue in our community, which is period poverty. It's an issue where young people don't have access to menstrual supplies. So because they live in poverty and because there are no policies or laws to create a space for them to get them. So our young ladies have been selling their bodies and performing sex acts and all these this to get a pad and tampon. So that was where I prefaced that I created the only feminine hygiene bank in the tri-state area by myself and my daughter. We have no funding. We're not funded by the government or grants or city or anything. And we also have created the only in-home delivery service in the nation. So we deliver over 200 plus deliveries to people living at poverty, to their doorsteps, to their homes. And we also ship
I've seen it.
And we also ship nationwide. So we give out more products a week, which is estimated at 38,000 products a week, more than any other organization in the nation. And we started a campaign called hashtag Black Pearls Bleed, where we're actually calling out menstrual brands and movements to support us because they haven't, because I'm a Black organization servicing Black bodies. And our ask is that Black women organizations, Black businesses, Black, anybody really start supporting this initiative because it has really kept our young ladies from going to school, going to practice, going to extracurricular activities and things like that. So I've gotten support from like large brands who are just shipping me stuff right now. So I need a building, put that out there. Somebody should give me a building. But on the other side of that, because our young people don't have money, I've been very intentional about partnerships because I used to try to do sexual ed classes and kids didn't have the money. So I partnered with Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, their OBGYN group, and their American Women's Medical Association. So once a month, we give a free class for young ladies ages 12 to 16 or any issues around sexuality. And we have one tomorrow. So if you go on my website, register, it's free. You have med students and myself teaching them for free. And it's going to talk about the body, gynecological thing, but every month we give them. So if you look on my website, I'm very intentional about offering stuff that's free and low cost. So because you guys are here, I need to tell you about one other a class that we do, and it's called SCORE. It's called, Naya did it, Sexual Consent on and off the game, Responding Effectively. We did this class with the Flyers. We did a class with the Sixers. Yes, we taught this class. It's really about sexual consent and how it is to people who are playing sports and how it looks different and how they get caught out there because of their status and because of, you know, what they're doing. So we do this class and we do it for free. We do it for free because we usually get donations from men and women and different people who want their young. I've had so many young people lose scholarships, lose opportunities, but just we give it free because consent looks different to our male population than it does to our women. And it's generational that we don't teach them about this. So that's another thing we do. So you can go on our website and look at some of the things that we offer, and I try to do them low cost or free. So I really try, I don't want to say I pimp this, but I really go to the ones that have and ask them to give me money or to partner with me to give it to my community. Did I forget anything, Latifah, that I needed to say? I think I'm good. Okay. Our STEM program. Well, last one.
Oh yeah, the STEM.
Royalty. Reclaim. My daughter has a master's degree in science now. In all transparency, her dad is incarcerated, life without parole. Both my kids grew up with their dad incarcerated, life without parole. Both of them got their master's degree. So my daughter started this program in cooperation with myself. I do self-esteem building and she does STEAM programming, because she's always say she's not a statistic, she's creative statistics. So we would do it where we teach young people who, because they always be like, oh, you don't know my background. She's like, look, I know it. We grew up the same way. So we really teach them about embodying who they are, being able to deal with all this negativity when the groups don't want to study because that's not cool, or they don't want it, really standing out and being able to go into these fields when no one else is doing that. So I think that's it. So you go on my website, No More Secrets, Mind, Body, Spirit Incorporated, and he'll have all the information and register. But tomorrow is a girl talk. So register, it's free. We have seats, 12 to 16, free with PCOM med students. You got to get some kids in there. There you go. I'm done.
Okay, now we're gonna go from the top down. We go from the oldest down to the youngest as far as the guys. So Joe, I believe that would be you.
I'm not the oldest.
I'm a moderator.
You're saying,
so
you're the same age as me, Joe. That's why I went to Girls High before I got expelled. So that's where you probably know me from.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So you're 5'0", so you're 5'1", so you go first, then Jeff.
You know you're getting old when you getting called on as the elder. So I just want to first say I really appreciate the invitation, and I've learned a lot. I think this has been a great conversation. Regarding our young folks, the question was originally asked, Damon, about how are the young folks doing. So I think it's a mixed bag. It really is going to have a lot to do with the home life that the student is coming from. One student I would like to just highlight, a gentleman named Malachi, who's in the 100. He's actually a student athlete. So he's an elite soccer player. He just got a scholarship at a private school to play soccer. He's been in the 100 for a little bit more than a year now. So he's going through a lot of stuff, learning about his history and social justice. So he recently had to do a video for us, and we sent it off to nationals. And he talked about an incident that he ran into down at Wildwood when some gentlemen who are not Black called him the N-word and different stuff, and yelled out a candidate's name that's running for office. So he said that he felt that he was able to deal with that situation a lot better because of what he went through, and it didn't catch him off like he had no idea something like that could happen. And this same young man, who's very balanced, nice young man, he also worked for me this summer. So in my STEM program, I actually hire both college interns and high school students as interns. So he was one of my high school interns. So he was able to earn some money this summer, learn about how to do some coding, some web development, and some different things. So again, just a great example of well-balanced. And he's one of the lucky ones because he does come from a family that has some structure and different things like that. So just on the whole, I'm representing 100 Black men. We have programs that actually are starting this month. We have a high school dollars and cents program where a young person can earn, they can earn or win up to $500. And many people don't know, but all of our national programs through the 100, they're co-ed. So all of the scholarships we've given out in Philly, they've all gone to young ladies. So, we're co-ed. All of our national funded programs are co-ed. We have created a specific program to deal with boys in the city because there's such a need. So we did that to meet that need. But all of our funding, any national, it's co-ed. And then on the other side, I'll just speak about Tech Core 2, which is the STEM program I founded 6 years ago. And I founded it because in my profession, I provide consulting services for charter schools, and I work with a lot of after school programs. And I just could see firsthand that computer science is not being taught. And as a community, the Black community specifically needs to be alarmed. When I went to Central High School, I took AP Computer Science. Right now, they don't even offer AP Computer Science. So the last $12 billion companies are all software engineering companies at their core. Uber, Netflix, all these companies are software engineers, and we are not producing them. Now, as great as LeBron James is and all the money he makes, he is dwarfed by Zuckerberg with Facebook. Facebook employs 50,000 people. The Black community needs a Zuckerberg. That's what we need. If we got one here in Philly, if a young boy coming out of King became Zuckerberg, he could transform the city. That's our focus. That's where we need to be. And so that's where I'm like Tupac in a sense. I'm not the one, I'm not Zuckerberg, but I'm trying to help make the next Zuckerberg. So on that note, you know, Joel Wilson, the Black thought of STEM. Thank you.
You're going to spark the brain is going to make the change.
Exactly.
Tupac. Jeff, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. First, you all are incredible. This was great this evening for me. It just gets me so energized to be around folks, even though it's virtual, that are just so passionate about what they do. It's really a privilege. So we're the Athlife Foundation. We help high schools create academic athletic coach staff positions that work with both male and female athletic teams year-round. We provide grants, training, professional development, and resources through our 3 ACE connected community. And, you know, our aim is to really change the landscape of secondary education. That's the big goal. 50 years ago, academic athletic advisors did not exist in college. The late John Thompson, who passed away last week, Georgetown Hoyas, he was hired in 1972. The first thing he did as the head basketball coach of that program was he hired a woman named Mary Fenlon and created an academic athletic coordinator position. Now that industry exists extensively at every Division I, II, some HBCUs, junior colleges across the country. There's no reason why it cannot exist in secondary ed and begin to address, you know, in a very intentional way, a lot of the issues that have come up that you guys have brought up today. You know, so that's us. We have not cracked into Philadelphia area yet. We're up here in the Lehigh Valley, and we've got some things percolating down there. Coach Chapman, you're my next call. I won't call you tonight, but maybe Monday. But yeah, look, I'm excited to stay connected with you all and keep pushing forward to see what we can do in Philadelphia, because Coach Warren and I know that, you know, we had some success there. This concept isn't new, but it works every time we get it into a school. So thank you all, and I look forward to continuing our connection here in the future.
Definitely reach out to Coach Chapman, and you know, I'll be in touch. I'm pulling you down there in Delaware too, so we'll talk about that as well, for sure. Okay, so the next oldest person would be, is that you, Chapman? Because I think you're older than Chris and Ryan. I think it would be you, Chapman.
35. I don't know. Am I the next one?
Yeah, you got me by 1 year. So go ahead.
Ah!
Got you, Chris. Got you,
Do your
Chris.
thing over here. Do your thing over here.
Oh, thank you. So you know, I have a couple different aspects of what we're doing for the kids. I have the teaching perspective of what we're trying to do, and it's kind of trying to keep open office hours every day for the kids. Trying to, you know, reach out to them. If kids aren't showing up to class, reach out to them, see what's going on, you know, by phone calls, text messages, emails, Google Classroom, any way we possibly can, just to make sure that, you know, there's no problems at home. You know, if they overslept, okay, that's fine. But as long as we get in contact with them, great. You know, we're doing, again, a bunch of outreach with them, check-ins. In terms of athletics, I will say we're in a battle right now to try to get back with our kids. And we're fighting a lot of powers that be to just get in person with our kids and get in front of our kids to try to keep them on track. You know, a lot of schools are virtual right now, full virtual, and still allowed to participate in athletics, but the public league is not. And there's great disparity there, and it's not right and it's not fair, to be 100% honest with you. So what we're doing with them right now, we have, you know, we're partnered with Focused Athletics, which provides SAT tutoring and workouts on the weekends with the kids. They do virtual college visits. We do check-ins with them all the time. On Tuesday, we have a Zoom with our seniors with the Philadelphia Eagles. 2 representatives will, be part. I don't know what 2 Eagles are going to be part of it, but they will be out there talking to our kids and trying to provide positive, encouragement. And I'm like I said, I'm grateful to be on this panel. I really appreciate everybody's opinion and everything that happened tonight, and I thank you guys very much.
Before the next person goes, which will probably be Chris, then Ryan last. Chapman, keep on doing what you're doing out there, man. And I know that from an equity standpoint, and because I lived it, right? It's just not happening for our babies. Just how COVID is impacting the inner city. These things now with virtual learning and no sports, but then you got people with virtual learning and having sports and playing games, whatnot. The disparity for the equity gap is definitely not there, and unfortunately, it's impacting folks of color more than anybody else.
And it's really unfortunate too, because there are teams that are even shut down for the season that are not allowed to play in the fall, that are still allowed to practice and meet with their kids.
Right.
Yeah, we're not even allowed to see our kids at this point. It's
that
not
part,
right. It's not right. I'm sorry. There's no equity there at all.
You should be able to at least work out with the kids, have them work out in a safe, social distance as much as you possibly can, because it keeps them off the street, man. And we don't want any more. We don't want any more of the other. I won't say his name, the young man that just passed away. We don't want any more of that. And what's going to end up happening is, unfortunately, we may get some more of that. So, coin flip: is it Chris or is it Ryan?
I think I got Banks.
He definitely got me.
by a year or two. Don't get excited. So, Ryan Harris. I know y'all heard my name a couple times tonight, but founder CEO of As I Planted the Seed nonprofit organization. We are a 501c3 organization, and we have a mentorship program that cater to at-risk youth from 11 to 17 years old, and we are based in the Hunter Park area. I want to piggyback off of something Lynette said, if I'm not mistaken. I appreciate everybody on her call, but she said something, if I'm not mistaken, you said something about self-efficacy. And if anybody know anything about self-efficacy, that's kind of like my little trick or my go-to method to be able to teach kids how to believe in themselves. If you study that method, it is amazing. You go add it to whatever y'all do already. If y'all don't, and y'all probably don't even know the term, not just y'all on the call, I'm just talking about whoever's on. But yeah, so I appreciate that. And I definitely want to connect with you because you said some key things and you carrying it like I carry it when it comes to, mentoring the youth. And so I definitely want to connect with you. But the Talk to Me program, we teach things that kids not learning in the schools, financial literacy, entrepreneurship workshops. And we just got a cool program. Like, it ain't all tight. Like, we have fun. We enjoying ourselves. The kids are able to be themselves. As a safe platform where they can express themselves and be themselves, and we allow them to. And then we expose them to new concepts and ideas so they can want more and think about more outside of the 8-block radius that they're growing up in. So we, like I said, we in Hunter Park. We raised $30,000 2 years ago to start to get our own community center. And it's been a struggle. The raising the $30,000 was great, but putting the work into the building, I didn't know I had to pay. Tuition, if you will, with that $30,000 to learn a lot to get where we at today, and we almost done. So I definitely want to connect with whoever is in the area to be able to provide space for them. We start our mentorship program October 7th. We're going to start virtual. We're going to do half of virtual on one day, and then we're going to do half of the session with half of the participants on Thursday. We're going to have vicarious experiences every Thursday where we have somebody that look like us, come from the same background, experience the same adversities, and having to be just down and dirty and just all the grit that comes with being successful. They're coming from where we're coming from, and they're giving these kids a place where they cannot make excuses because they've experienced it and they did it. So so we just got a cool program, man. We got a lot of things going on and a lot of things coming up, and we're looking forward to meeting with our kids on a regular basis again. So if y'all want to look out for me, our website is under construction. But if you follow me on Instagram as I plant this seed, you can find me information. You can DM me, and I'll definitely keep y'all posted when the new website is going to launch when we have our grand opening. So stay tuned. And
I'll definitely be in contact with you.
Absolutely, because you. Oh yeah, another thing too. My daughter, you know, she 12, so y'all know what I'm experiencing, and what you're
Yes.
talking about right there. Whew, I want to be. I'm a dad with a daughter, so you know, and I'm able to take care of those, you know, that financial responsibility because, you know, I do what I don't like to believe I do well, but it's still a
It's
burden.
all the other stuff. Yeah, and it's a burden.
It's a burden. There's a lot of stuff that come with it. You forget. You gotta practice hygiene. All of these things. So
we need to put a bank in your building. We're going to create a menstrual bank in your
let's do it.
We're doing it.
Listen, I got 70 kids in my program. I think I'm gonna say 75% of them is girls.
All right, we got it. Let's talk. I'm going to create a bank in your building. All right, got
We'll
it.
be there too.
All right,
We'll
let's
be there
go.
too.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Beautiful. Say less. Say less. Brother Chris. Brother Banks.
Yeah, so for one, because it seems like you want me to close the show out, so I wanted to say that I appreciate everybody their takes on that, and certainly I've been schooled with a lot of stuff as well, and certainly Sister Lynette was dropping a lot of gems in her last talk that I certainly hit me, having a daughter as well, 8, so we ain't there yet, but the doctor tried to say something the other day, Ryan, that I wasn't feeling, trying to compare me for a year or two, but nevertheless.
Yeah, they starting at 8 and 9 now. I have 9-year-olds.
Mine ain't starting at 8. Well, hold it. She ain't starting yet.
All right, but it could. Just think, it could.
Nah,
let me just get off now. But go all right.
But yeah, so again, because I never fully got to talk about it. So I run an organization called the Banksgiving Company, and what we do is that we teach kids about different aspects of business and finance. We have a ready curriculum designed to have students examine their personal goals in the world around them to further develop their core knowledge of finance, entrepreneurship, personal branding. In regards to sports, we're currently striving to provide those lessons essential to the game in their life beyond. So we're actively looking for coaches and administrators who are involved in sports. And I actually have curriculum that is directly based on the business of sports, you know, and I'm taking some of those just natural things like, hey, you know, whoever, you know, I know you love football, I know you love basketball, but, and, you know, what is a way that you could be involved in that for life that doesn't involve you having to run your head into someone else for, you know, forever? You know, what are ways that, you know, you could take your experience on the field and put that into how you could be a general manager, an agent, possibly an owner. I think that those are realistic things that we should be teaching these players, because again, I love sports myself, you know, but I think that if I ever thought that being a GM or being an agent was achievable, I probably would have spent 10 years trying to learn that as well. So but as far as the program that we have going up right now, currently we have an entrepreneurship program that's closed. That's a 7-week program. But next up, we have a Thanksgiving book club that's going to start on October 4th. So if any of you have any students in that middle to high school age that you think want to talk about that, and we're not just talking about it from a Wall Street level, we're talking about it meeting them where they at. We're talking about it in things that you like. You know, why are our kids so attracted to the Jordan sneakers and the Gucci belt, and what does that symbolize? So it's very important to talk about those things. But the first book that we're going to be reading is The Power of Broke by Damon John. We are providing the books for them. So if you have any students, feel free to connect with me. Banksgiving.org is our website, as well as Banksgiving on Facebook and Instagram. That's about it. I do want to say that, you know, for anyone out there, coaches who, you know, and it definitely sounds crazy that you can't reach your kids physically, but, you know, if you can reach them virtually, email, or however you guys communicate with your parents, I think that it's very important to, you know, talk about issues that are concerning them. You know, again, as I was talking to one of my friends, ex-teammates who was white, I found it incredibly disheartening that a white coach with a white staff, but 90% of his players didn't want to bring about issues that were actually hurting his players. And I think that that's incredibly tone deaf, and it shows that coaches and administrators essentially only care about their own agendas. So as much as we want these kids to be successful on the field, I think that and whether your personal feelings are to that or not, it is important to let them know that they should be proud of being Black, and and understand that Black lives matter and things of that. So so I think so many times I see coaches on Facebook and stuff, and they get so political that it makes me feel like I never had my kid go to that coach. You know what I mean? And that coach is so silent that no way in hell. And clearly I know brother Warren is not that, but I say for anyone out there in the atmosphere that is, I think it's important to really touch your kids and not just about, them on the athletic field. That's about it for me. And again, I appreciate everybody. And I actually want to work with everyone on here as well, especially for those that I don't know. And I appreciate you, brother Warren, for inviting me here.
Without doubt, dog team. I mean, you know how we do. I never forget when I was coaching. I was coaching, and you was like just starting at Temple or something. You was doing something with Ted Solari, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm coaching the game against Central. I think we lost. We had to get smashed. Central was pretty good at that one particular time. Killed them every year after that. But you know, they're taking stats and doing something like that, man. So I'm glad to see you doing what you're doing, man. So I'm going to share a screen real quick that has all your information, so the world out there can see and can see it, because we have visual learners. I don't know most of you said it. So this is Lynette's contact information right here. So all of you that are out there, please, you can screenshot it. This will be on Facebook, so you can take a look at it again there as well. And this is the event that's taking place. When is it? Tomorrow, right, Lynette?
Yes, tomorrow. Please register. It's free from these, like you said, med students teaching it with me. So please register. It's a free event. It's only for like an hour and a half. So we went virtual. So please sign up.
Awesome. Here's another slide here with everyone's contact information. So take a moment here if you want to screenshot that, those that are still logged on with us, or you can come back later on and check it out, of all our panelists for this evening. And who am I? I'm just Damon Warren, but people call me Brother Warren. And
the legend.
My organization is Peace, man. Just, please educate all children equally. I do these conversations once a month to just bring out issues, right? To touch the community, because as an educator, it's always been more than just ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, right? It's always been about trying to liberate our people through that particular industry, which is education. Some of the things I'm doing right now on the side, offering some coaching and mentoring, for young people. Got some professional development opportunities that I'm working on right now. I do volunteer, right, at the plug of 100 Black Men in Philadelphia. That's how I met Joel. I volunteered with them as well. Did some mentoring workshops this past spring, doing some different things as well. So anybody that wants to get back with me, you can reach me here at Brother Warren at Please Educate All Children Equally.com. I got a couple of things in the works right now with a couple of area charter schools for some, PD on equity and diversity and things of that nature coming up. So we're gonna look out for that soon. But if anyone out there wants some of that now, you got my information. You know how to contact me. So, panelists, any final thoughts? Any final words? Anything you want to say before we go?
I want to say something to you, Mr. Warren. Listen, I know everybody keep probably asking me why I don't call you Mr. Warren, but y'all gotta understand that's my second grade teacher. Like, my mom don't play that, so I gotta call him Mr. Warren still. That's just what it is. But I just really, really want to personally thank you for not just talking about being a mentor, but over 20 years. Almost 30 years that you've still been investing in me. Even after second grade and I didn't have your class anymore, you still invested in me, still playing football. Still invested in me all the way up until when I started my organization. You was you was in that first panelist or guest speaker that I had. And that just goes to show the work that you've done, the legacy that you're going to leave. I just want to say I appreciate you, and I can't even. There's nothing I can do but continue the work to honor you. In any other way, it wouldn't be real. I can only honor you by continuing your work, and that's why I do what I do today. So I appreciate you.
The film Bookbusters, right? That's where second grade and fourth grade. I had y'all second grade and fourth grade.
Yeah.
And we were undefeated against who was the Stanton and Steele.
Steele. What's that other bad school we used to play against?
Princeton. One of them, I don't know. We beat them all. We beat them all. Ran them out of here. But it
Yeah.
wasn't about that. It wasn't about that. It was about inspiring you guys and took off to Chain University, right? The oldest
Yes.
HBCU in the country. And look what you did. You ended up
Yeah.
going to Chain University and graduated from Chain University.
Lincoln University.
But you know what? We're not going to start that. I forgot
Oh,
who's
man.
on this panel. We're not going to start that. We're not going to start that. That's another panel. Listen, I'm glad you said that because next month I'm doing a conversation on HBCU.
All I'm gonna say is, Mr. Warren, I'm gonna end that conversation with 1854, 1837. That's it.
We're not gonna go. All right. We don't want to because I know a lot of my Lincoln family out there watching now too. They're gonna start. I get more inboxes right now. All of a sudden, look, I can't see what I see. On my Lincoln heads. But listen.
But Mr. Warren, in close, I said Mr. Warren, Brother Warren. In closing, I want to say the same. I think I met you probably, I guess, senior year of high school through the city all-star game. Then ended up, joining in the world's greatest fraternity after that. Something that you've always been a much. I see you, Lynette, a very advocate member of. You probably don't remember. But my sister went to Masterman when you were, I think, the vice principal there. And so she remember you as being one of the only Black people in administration over there at the time.
Only Black male in the building, other than security and maintenance.
Well, see, they never let me in, so I don't know. But I did used to see you outside every day. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, you've always been someone of your community. This is not nothing new for you. So I think even self-consciously, that's always been in my head anytime I think about you. So it's not like anything like this is new for you. And Ryan echoes that too, saying, what you've been doing since early 90s, with him in second grade. And so this is a great platform. I appreciate you for having me, and much love and success for anything that you do from here on out for sure.
Appreciate you, Chris. Anybody else? Any final thoughts?
No, that's enough praise, man. Go ahead, man. It's over.
No, not for me. I ain't talking
Keep talking about anybody. Yeah.
Listen, Facebook land, panelists, thank you for being out here tonight. Like I said, next month we're going to talk about HBCUs, so be on the lookout for that. That information will be coming out very, very soon. So all you guys, please connect. I'll send the PowerPoint slides to you so you have that information. Everybody be safe, stay pandemic and COVID free, right? And to the parents out there, keep on doing the best that you can. Keep mask life, stay masked up, right? Stay masked up, stay pandemic free. And beyond Friday Night Lights, let's get our babies ready for the future beyond sports. Let's get them ready for something else that's going to be greater than that in the long run. Still use the sport to get there, right? But give them something else to do too. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.